Preacher, Tim Breen,
and I'm the Prodigy,
Jericho Breen. We're back for another year of college football, 2020 and into 2021. It's been a long layoff since we've recorded last, and that's because there's been a lot of uncertainty with this upcoming season, hasn't there been, Jericho?
Yeah, a lot of conferences coming back after originally there's supposed to be like 6 conferences playing, and now all of them are coming back to play some college football.
It's been a year of uncertainty, of course, due to COVID-19 and a lot of changes in and around college football with protocols. We're going to play a lot of games with no fans. This year, a lot of conferences have shortened schedules. We'll be talking about that. And, of course, we have the issue of players opting out, and I really think that's going to impact a few teams this year in college football. Let's look at teams like Oregon, Michigan, a lot of players opting out from like South Florida, and those opt-outs are going to eventually cost teams games.
It will. Those opt-outs, some teams try really hard to get him back. Michigan's tried really hard to get Nico Collins back. And Oregon tried hard to get Penny Sewell back. Both of them really amazing college football players. They just decided to leave.
Yeah. Hard to fault them, but I think the NCAA did the right thing, and this is basically a free year of eligibility for anyone who plays. No one will have the 2020-2021 season count against their years of eligibility. That's pretty cool. So we could be looking down the line at some supersized rosters due to having potentially another year's worth of players in the system. That will be something that coaches and players themselves, perhaps through the transfer portal, are going to have to work out over the course of the year. So it took us a long time to feel like we were ready to do this. I think without the announcements of the Big Ten and the Pac-12 coming back, and then the subsequent announcements of schools like the MAC and the Mountain West, we might not have felt like doing this. We have obviously a Big Ten bias. We're in Big Ten country right now. We're coming to you from Preacher and Prodigy Mobile Command in Minnesota, but we are based in Iowa, and both of us are actually born in West Michigan. So we're connected with those teams, and a Big Ten kicks its schedule off in just over 3 weeks. So what we're going to do today is they'll offer you a quick overview, a kind of a national outlook on some predictions. Then we'll be coming back tomorrow morning with a few picks for this weekend's games against the line. And, of course, last year the Prodigy pretty much whooped my butt in that, probably
ended up 15
to 20 games. So this is going to be a redemption year for the Preacher. We're looking forward to that. Sure. So let's jump into our season predictions. These will be national predictions. And let's start with our guesses for the top 10. Let's begin maybe just with our also rans. Jericho, let's hear your numbers 5 through 10 in your top 10, and maybe a little bit about why, and then I'll do my 5 through 10, and we'll come back for our playoff teams.
My number 10 would be Oregon, because a lot of people would think Oregon might have made the college football playoffs this year if a lot of their players came back, but they all decided to leave. So now I don't think they're going to be completely horrible. I don't think they're going to be average. I think they're going to be pretty good, top 10 team. But that's my number 10 team. I picked Notre Dame number 9 because they're at number 9 seed right now, and they don't have a lot of big games to win, and their season's currently off right now because they got COVID on their roster. But I think they're just going to stay at number 9 throughout the whole year mostly.
Playing out of the ACC, incidentally,
yeah.
Now. It's a historic thing for Notre Dame to be playing in a conference.
Yeah. No, my number 8 would be Texas. I think Sam Ehlinger has a pretty big year. I think that this team is going to put together, and I think they're going to score big. Defense is going to do really good, Big 12 standard.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think they're going to pull it together, top 10 team. My number 7 would be Wisconsin. I know Wisconsin's good every year, even though they lose players. But this one might hurt the biggest, losing Jonathan Taylor, who had the most rushing yards in Wisconsin history. Just pounded people all the time. And I don't think that I think that they'll be able to get the same amount of rushing yards, the same amount of rushing touchdowns with two of their better running backs. I think Jack Cohn is going to have a really big year throwing to all his different wideouts, and of course, great tight end. And their defense is going to be great as always, so I think it's just going to be unfair advantage if you play Wisconsin. Number 6 would be Penn State. I know Micah Parsons is leaving, which is huge for them, but Sean Clifford is not a horrible quarterback. He's not like last year where he just came into the spotlight. I think he knows how to play, knows how to win big, and I think James Franklin is going to make the run game be unstoppable with Journey Brown and Ricky Slade, and I think their defense, even the linebackers losing Micah Parsons, is still going to be amazing. Number 5, I'm going to take Georgia. I know this is kind of normal place for Georgia to be, but I mean, Jamie Newman being gone, or Jamie Newman not playing, Jake Fromm leaving, they lose DeAndre Swift and losing a lot of players on that talented team, but still they've got safeties, cornerbacks, D linemen who can really play football.
All right. So those are your also rans in the top 10. I'm going to go a little more quickly through mine. I'm going to begin also with Notre Dame at number 10. They've looked good at the beginning of the year. And in these predictions, we have a little bit of an advantage of having seen a few of these games already. Notre Dame has looked good in the early going in the ACC. Number 9, Texas. Again, I do think that the offense is coming together under Tom Herman's watch. The defense, that was a pretty close one against Texas Tech this past weekend. It doesn't look good to give up 56 points to Texas Tech. And so we'll have to see if that can get worked out down there in Austin. Number 8, I'm going to go with Oklahoma. Early season trip up against Kansas State. Kansas State just really seems to have their number. So does Iowa State.
Yeah,
that'll be an interesting
Oklahoma
pick.
always gets close games with Kansas State and Iowa State. It's just...
And number 7, I'm going to take the Bearcats of Cincinnati, again, on virtue of thinking that their schedule is going to permit them to win, 11 games probably for sure. Number 6, a team that's looked really good in the early going and probably would have a pretty good argument to be potentially a top 3, top 4 team would be Miami. Really look excellent there down in Coral Gables. Now, number 5, I also have Georgia. Similar reasons. The quarterback position's been a revolving door there. You go back to Jake Fromm.
Jamie Newman was going to come. He's not playing.
A few years ago, Justin Fields there. And now JT Daniels is apparently eligible for this weekend after playing Dwan Mathis. And then Stetson, the other kid they threw in there this weekend. But I think the roster Kirby Smart has put together has been just so strong. He's recruiting at a level probably surpassed by only 2 or 3 teams. Definitely a top 5 team in terms of recruiting over the last couple of years. So we have kind of a lot of chalk here with our top 10s, and I really don't think this top 10 is going to be accurate. I think that given the oddity of this year, it's going to be a topsy-turvy year. There's going to be a lot of things that we did not see coming. But because you didn't see them coming, they're hard to predict. So these feel a lot like chalk to me. But this could be a year where nobody finishes undefeated. It could be a year with a strange conference champion. It could be the kind of year where we have legitimately 9 teams making the case for getting into the playoff. We just don't know. Things in the early going have suggested this. You look at LSU just really getting run over in what should be a transition year for Mississippi State under Mike Leach, and the Bulldogs just threw it all over the yard down in Baton Rouge.
KJ Costello setting records in his first game in SEC.
KJ Costello threw for over 600 yards. And again, not having fans, home field advantages are mitigated that way. There could be whole position groups could have to sit out for a week. Teams could have to skip a game and then reschedule for later in the year. So I think that our top 10s are going to look really different. It's just hard to predict what they're going to be. So this is as much of a challenge as ever. Okay, let's go to our playoff teams now. Let's hear first of all, let's hear your number 1 and number 4. Let's get your number 2 against number 3 matchup here.
My number 2 against number 3. Number 3, Bama Crimson Tide against number 2 Ohio State. I think if they play in this game, it could be a very low scoring game. It could be a very high scoring game. It could be in the middle. It could be anything. Ohio State, obviously, Justin Fields, Chris Olave, Trey Sermon coming from Oklahoma, rushing for over 1,000 yards there. It's just going to be too unstoppable of an offense, and Sean Wade coming back for their defense. It's just going to be a very, very hard team to play against. Alabama coming off for a kind of disappointing year. Alabama fans would say going 11-2. I think that Mac Jones might throw for 3,500 yards, maybe 33 touchdowns. But I think the real key in the game Tuscaloosa is going to be the running game with Najee Harris and how good Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle is going to be. If they can play to the best of their abilities, they will be top 3 scoring team in the country.
And I have the exact same 2 and 3 matchup you do. I think the Buckeyes, though they're ranked number 6, are going to win so handily and so easily in so many games. I see them jumping all the way up there into that top 2 or 3 game, whether it's 2, whether it's 3, really doesn't matter all that much as long as you're in that game. But I think Ohio State will run the table. I don't think anyone will get particularly close to Ohio State this year. Just way too much talent, good coaching, new defensive coordinator, although Kerry Combs has been around the program here and there for decades now. It seems like Larry Johnson, Greg Madison, that have plenty of bright minds in the war room on defense. Offensively, Ryan Day has picked up where Urban Meyer left off and perhaps pushing the passing game a little bit more. I think it's going to be another big year for Justin Fields. I think that both of these teams, they could have issues at backup quarterback. So pay close attention if Justin Fields goes down midway through the season. Ohio State's going to be leaning on a transfer, Gunnar Hulk, or someone like that. Perhaps a true freshman is going to have to step in there. And so those nobody has a great backup quarterback situation, but I think Ohio State's and Alabama's will be ones to watch in particular. So we agree on the 2-3, our 1 and 4. This is going to present some interesting discussion.
My number 1 and 4 will be number 1, Clemson, kind of obvious with how they're doing. Number 4, Florida, with running over Ole Miss, looking like a surprising LSU team. Not near as good as LSU, but just in the manner that they took off. Their Kyle Pitts and Kyle Trask will be maybe the best receiver quarterback combo maybe in the country. Over Chris Olave, Justin Fields, because Kyle Trask is looking like he could be throw for I don't know 4,000.
Well, how many games is the SEC going to play? Are they playing 10 games?
I think it's still 10, but still, I mean, he might throw for.
You're talking about 400 yards a game then.
I'm thinking, well, with 10-game schedule, he might throw for over 3,000 yards if he keeps this up, maybe 3,500. But Kyle Pitts is going to be his main receiver after Van Jefferson is gone. Kyle Pitts is such a mismatch. It's like playing Rob Gronkowski.
4 touchdowns in the opening game.
4 touchdowns in the opening game. He's got the speed. He's got speed like a wide receiver, strength like a D lineman, and height like no one. It's just such a mismatch if you're going to guard him.
So that's your 1 and 4. Now, I'm going to agree with you on 1. I think last year's romp by LSU notwithstanding, I think Clemson is still the top of the college football world right now over the last 5 years. And I think, you know, the kind of talent that they have across the board and the relative weakness of the ACC, again, Notre Dame notwithstanding, I think is going to permit them to go undefeated. Here's where we really differ. My number 4 team is out of the blue, and literally blue. And I'm going to take, again, with some bias built into this from the preseason, I'm taking BYU. I think BYU is not one of the 4 best teams in the country,
No.
but I think that they have the real good potential to go undefeated and not be challenged to the point that by virtue of other teams ahead of them falling off, they're going to make their way up to the top of the rankings. That we really disagree on this, and time will tell. But I think you're going to see teams like Georgia. We disagree on Florida and Penn State. I'm not sold on either one of those teams, but I think you'll see teams like Georgia, Texas. Some of these other schools, Oklahoma, end up with at least 2 losses. I can see a 1-loss Texas being ahead of BYU. Can I see a 2-loss Texas being ahead of an undefeated BYU? I think, given everything that's going on in this season, that the committee might just say, why not? Let's put BYU in there. So your reasons for disagreeing are
because if BYU goes undefeated, it's gonna look like they're another Boise State or another Appalachian State team that goes 14-0, wins or 14-0, 13-0. Because those teams have talent on them. They challenge big teams. App State challenged Penn State a couple years ago. But because App State only made it to top 20, they didn't get close to the college football playoff because they didn't win a lot of games against big teams. They only won against other Sun Belt teams and other not so good teams, and the same with BYU. And with the other teams, if they get 2 losses, they'll lose 2 losses to good teams. They won't lose to some team from the Mountain West. They'll lose to, say, Georgia. They lose 2 games. They won't lose to some team. They won't lose to like a Rutgers team. They'll lose to an Alabama and a Florida. They'll lose to an Alabama and a Georgia. They won't, and they'll hang in those games because good teams going against each other will always be a close game, and even if you lose, you'll still lose rankings.
All right, I think you've made your point. It's a spicy pick, I admit that, but that's what the preseason is for. A little bit of spicy picks. We'll see how that plays out. All right, we need to move quickly here through our conference champions and then get to some of our individual awards here before we wrap up. Your ACC champion is
Cincy.
Your AAC champion, yeah. Cincy. So is mine. ACC, I think we both have Clemson. Big Ten, we're going to agree on OSU. Your Big 12 team,
Texas.
You're taking Texas. So am I. And SEC. So we agree on 5 of the 6 of these. Now the Pac-12 I know is where we disagree. You have
Oregon.
You have Oregon, and I'm gonna take a flyer
out of the blue again.
Powder blue on Chip Kelly and the UCLA Bruins. Again, the Pac-12 rather is only playing 7 games, and so sometimes in a shortened season, someone can kind of sneak up and grab a piece of the crown that a longer season might have exposed their weaknesses, but a shorter season. It's just like a Cinderella team in college basketball. They can make a run for a couple of weekends, maybe there, but eventually they get bounced because of the longer time they're playing, the longer chance that they have to be exposed. So I'm going to take UCLA just to be fun. All right, our 3 Heisman Trophy. Let's go to individual awards. 3 finally Heisman Trophy finalists first. Who are your finalists?
I got Justin Fields from OSU, Derek Stingley, cornerback from LSU, and Najee Harris, running back for Bama.
I'm going to agree with you on Justin Fields. I think he's in New York. I think Sam Ehlinger's in New York. Again, I think the offense of Texas is going to put up a lot of points. And I think Trevor Lawrence will be there, again, part of a career award. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is going to have massive numbers, but I think all that he represents for college football, I think he'll get an invitation. The one thing about numbers we do have to say here is that with these shortened seasons, when you're looking at individual awards, I think you're going to have to look in places other than Big Ten, other than Pac-12, maybe other than SEC, because these teams are going to have shorter seasons, and with
therefore less numbers.
Yeah, I think with a third fewer games, you're going to have statistical shortcomings relative to those who played a full schedule. Your Heisman Trophy winner, though,
Trevor
is
Lawrence. I think he's gonna pass. The last 2 years, he didn't put up huge numbers, only 3,500 passing yards, just 30 touchdowns. Not huge numbers for a guy you would expect to win the Heisman Trophy, but I think he'll have a breakout year.
Yeah. It's certainly possible because the Heisman Trophy voters do tend to, again, look at it as a career award, and everything that Trevor Lawrence has done in the offseason with some of the social issues, if it's close, I think it's going to be Trevor Lawrence. I happen to have another ACC quarterback in there. I think Derek King is going to take home the Heisman. We've seen a career of highlight reel plays out of this guy, first at Houston and now at Miami. And I think that what he has done in the early season has been so impressive that he's kind of a hot name right now. And again, maybe going up against some of the ACC defenses, which are not SEC or Big Ten defenses.
But they're not Big 12 defenses.
And they're not
either.
Big 12 defense, which is why Sam Ehlinger is a good choice. And you've obviously seen the run of Heisman trophies coming out of Oklahoma, too. And Jalen Hurts, again, being in the discussion last year. I just don't think Spencer Rattler this year is going to be there. But Spencer Rattler, probably pretty good odds of him being in New York at some point in his career. So I'll take Ehlinger as my runner-up, and then Justin Fields in the discussion as well, along with Trevor Lawrence. Okay, very quickly, Doak Walker Award, top running back.
Najee.
I'm going to go with Chuba Hubbard from Oklahoma State. The Davey O'Brien for quarterback. I suspect you're going with your Heisman winner.
Lawrence. Yep.
And if not, if some of the voters, maybe want to split their vote on that, I certainly could see Sam Ehlinger in that discussion as well as Justin Fields. Fred Biletnikoff Award.
Originally I changed mine because I didn't know tight ends.
Because he wanted to copy my answer.
No, I would have put Kyle Pitts in. I promise you. I didn't know that they were allowing tight ends for a wide receiver award because Fred Biletnikoff was a wide receiver. I would have taken Devontae Smith if I hadn't, because I didn't know. But Kyle Pitts is tight end, and they were putting him in the Biletnikoff watch list, so I'll put him in.
Yeah. I'll take Pitts. I think he's made a splash, but I wouldn't rule out, again, looking at all the numbers that are getting run up, Mississippi State, a player from down there, or a similar offense like you have at Central Florida, maybe a Marlon Williams or Trey Nixon could put up big numbers there as well. I think that Jamar Chase leaving took away your top choice. I think, again, Rashad Bateman is going to have a great year. I think he has a great, highly accurate quarterback. But, again, just playing 8 games probably isn't going to score quite as many touchdowns. So I'm going to go with Kyle Pitts. Defensive Player of the Year, I think we agree on this, too.
Derek Stingley.
Yeah, I think Stingley as well, though he sat out the first game for sickness. I don't know if he's the best defensive player in the country. I kind of think the best defensive player in the country could be George Karlaftis from Purdue. Just an absolute freakazoid monster. And I think Zach Harrison from the Ohio State Buckeyes as well. Tremendous defensive end prospect there. But their sack numbers, their tackle numbers, their potential game-changing play numbers are going to be truncated because of the shortness of the season. So that's a factor as well. All right, now we're going to just, as we wrap up, we're going to be super biased. We're going to talk about our favorite team, the Michigan Wolverines, and make our season prediction for Michigan's record this year. Kind of an overview for me. I'll go first this time, and I'll let you have the last word. I foresaw this being kind of a down year in Michigan's schedule anyway. This was the year where they were due to go to both Ohio State and to Michigan State. Looks like they're going to have Michigan State at home this year if the schedule holds. But I think that the roster cycle for Michigan is in a low spot right now. And I think that the transfer out of Dylan McCaffrey, as well as the departures early from Nico Collins and Ambry Thomas, have just exacerbated the issues in some recruiting of some of the defensive back positions and quarterback positions. So I think that Michigan is not going to have a championship year. I
They
think
never have.
no,
In the
I
last
think
20 years.
much is going to hinge on Joe Milton. I think Joe Milton is a kind of a Dwayne Haskins type, tall, rocket armed passer. Michigan hasn't had a guy with this kind of arm strength in a long time, if ever. Milton's throwing 70-yard passes, but if you're not accurate with them, it doesn't really matter. Michigan's backup quarterback, Cade McNamara, is sort of the opposite. He's an accurate, more of kind of in the Drew Tate from Iowa type mold, a little bit shorter player, can move a little bit, but accurate. But again, inexperienced and probably doesn't have the arm strength. You'd love to merge these two into one guy, but I think quarterback play is going to be difficult for Michigan. I think that defensive back play is really going to be the question mark, and a team like Minnesota, I think, is going to have a field day with wide receivers running open and free. A lot of pressure on Michigan's defensive line to get after quarterbacks. Hopefully, guys like Cam McGrone, Michael Barrett can come hard on the blitz. But I just don't think Michigan is going to have a great year compared to what they may have in 2021 or 2022. So I think in this shortened season, I think it's going to be a developmental year. It's rebuild, not a reload year. I've got Michigan going 5-3. And then maybe 5-4 with a predicted crossover game if it's at Kinnick Stadium, potentially the number 4 team from each side playing. So I have Michigan losing on the road to Minnesota, on the road at Indiana, and on the road at Iowa for my predictions. I'm not overly impressed with Penn State. I don't think that they'll, and I think Jim Harbaugh has only lost to 2 teams at home in his entire Michigan career. Ohio State
and Ohio
State 3 times, Michigan State 2 times. Michigan State is really going to have they're going to be building on bare bones this year with some transfers out in addition to a coaching change. I think Michigan wins all their home games except Ohio State. They split them on the road, and they ended up going 5-4.
I think they're 5-3, same with you, but I think they will play Iowa, but I think they'll beat Iowa in a very low-scoring match. I've got Michigan losing to Wisconsin. Very talented Wisconsin team. I got Ohio State. It's Ohio State. They can't beat them like they used to. And Minnesota, I think it's going to be a rough first game for Joe Milton, quarterback, who hasn't started a game in his career, and I just don't see Michigan winning in that game. I think it's going to be intense for the Michigan players, but I just think Minnesota's overpowered passing game is going to come through.
So we both think Ohio State runs away and hides in the Big Ten, but we'll be cheering hard for our local teams. Want to thank you for watching this video. If you like it, share it with other people. And I think we'll get a YouTube thing where you can subscribe as well and keep up with the rest of the season as we run out game predictions all the way through Christmas. And we hope that you'll hang in there with us. We'll keep the score on our game predictions. Check in tomorrow morning for our predictions for this weekend's game. We'll have 5-6 games. How many are we picking?
5.
5 games. So we'll have that for you tomorrow morning. Till then, peace.